we don't understand what's going on a lot of fronts. We go to Dan and say, you know, here's what we see, help us out. And so he's been with us since 2008.
Yeah, we met in 2008.
Yeah. And so he is the lead on our project. And with that, Dan does have a presentation from the USDA or from his research. So with that, yes, we are ready to go. So
super.
There's that. I'm going to flip pages for you, Dan, if that's okay.
Okay.
If I can know how to do that. Okay.
Yeah, wonderful. All right. Well, good morning. Thanks for accommodating my tardiness. Common problem with me. Yeah, it's been a good collaboration. I have other contacts in the Humic industry around the country and even overseas, and my clear impression is there's something going on here. You know, that these products are not flanks, and we need to show to other people in a very scientific and rigorous manner that there is something going on here. So my hope out of this collaboration with AgLogic and Innovative Crop Solutions is first show the industry the rigor in the kind of measurements that need to be taken. So the number of replications, the type of measurements during the season, not just grain yield, come up with some reasonable explanation as to what's going on. But also, then we publish papers in the journals, and that will then show to the scientific community that no, these products are not all snake oil. You know, at least some of them can work really well. At least, well, the main point is they can work consistently. And our hope is that someday other researchers will work with other Humic companies in their areas with their crops on their soils and do the similar type work. And I think all of agriculture can benefit from these types of products, but we have to prove it first. So that's our motivation for working with AgLogic and Innovative Crop Solutions. So this has been a 5-year project now. For the first few years, we were in phase 1 of dealing with a mysterious product. That is, does it work? Let's look briefly at some of our grain yield data. This is 1 year, 2011, where we went to different farms across Iowa, or in this year even we went to South Dakota and Nebraska there as well. But otherwise, in 2010, 2009, we were mostly in right here in central Iowa. We went to farmers' fields where a strip has been applied of the yield igniter. And these are all hand samples. We go in and take a 1 meter section for the most part in the treated area, except a few feet outside of that, we take a 1 meter section of plant in the control, check areas, on spray. Bring them back to our building, we tear them into yield components, we weigh them, dry them, weigh the stover, weigh the grain, measure top length, and so forth, yield component type measurements. And here are the results. Each of these numbers here is one field. The y-axis is the response, the grain yield response. Did it go up or did it go down with the yield igniter being applied? And this year, this was our worst of the 3 years. We only got about a 70% success rate. In 2010, 2009, we got about an 80% success rate. You can see all these are all positive increases. Again, this is the weight of the grain from this 1 meter section. So that's pretty good. The average yield here, or the average increase was 8.4%, about 15 bushels or so per acre. Now, hand samples tend to exaggerate things because you're picking out a section of good, clean growth. There's no skips, no diseased plants, and so forth. So yields tend to be a little higher. But this is very consistent with what we got in the 2 years before that. 10 to 15 bushel per acre yield increase on average across all farms. So we have 3 years of data like that, and after talking with Mike and Chad all these years, we're convinced there's something happening here, something good happening. So the next phase of research would be, well, can we get more information on this yield increase? How does it occur? How does it express itself in the plant? When and where is it occurring? That might tell us a little bit more about, maybe in your case, the company's case, you could better target customers, Tell them, well, here's how your crop will respond, here's where it will respond. You can better target your customers. In the scientific community, we want to learn why do things happen. Why, when you get a yield bump, why is that? How does the plant change? Other yield component measurements, the most consistent response is from the ear cob length. We're seeing this in, I would say, 60, 70, 80% of the cases, if not more. Where there is a yield increase, we almost always have the longer ear. Can you push it back one more time? We're seeing no effect on the number of rows. And we're not seeing a real clear effect, probably no effect, on the average kernel weight. So the kernels are not bigger, they're not denser, there's just more of them because you have a longer ear. Put back up. I'll give you a signal on something. Ear length is determined in the literature, the scientific literature. Ear length is determined anywhere between B6 and B12. So we know that at that point in time, something's happening in the plant. The plant is responding to this product, so it's beginning to set longer ears. Of course, you have to fill those ears, but the effect of the product is already happening between B6 and B12. We often see thicker ears as well. Now, it's real hard to see this if you're just walking through the field. But if you take the ears out of the field and hold them side by side, it's a lot easier to see this kind of stuff. Okay. This longer ear length, bigger ear, seems to be set, as I said earlier in the season. Mike took these samples with me in 2009, when I believe the ear was nothing more than wasn't it just a bulge on the side of the stem? Mm-hmm. And we kind of open, you can see how much thicker these guys are than the control ears, already at that younger growth stage. Okay, thanks. Other measurements to look at why this yield increase is occurring. Corn leaf area. Well, we've been measuring that for about 3 years now. Why do we want to do leaf area? Because it's an indicator of the growing conditions that plant has experienced. If it's finding lots of water, lots of nutrients, it'll grow bigger leaves. It can grow faster, so it wants to grow faster, keep up with the competition. And in return, these bigger leaves are the engines for plant growth. You've got bigger leaves, you will grow more. Okay, yeah. These are some of the best data. It looks like a horrible graph, but we can make sense of it fairly quickly here. This was on a field near Radcliffe, I believe the Holichek field. The product was applied at 3 different times, and the yellow was the control. For each leaf on each plant, we measured the leaf area. So let's just look at the first 2 colors here, control versus pre-emergence. There's really no response in that leaf area to the Humic product until the 8th leaf. And then from thereafter, you can see the pre-emergence treatments have bigger leaves. And these are the biggest leaves up here, so that's important. And that increase continues until about V19. Now you can also look at V6 application compared to the purple versus the yellow. And there you can see that there's no response at all until someplace in here, V9, V10 or so. And then you get a clear difference later in the season. So the product, when it's applied, it takes apparently a little bit of time before it starts affecting the plant, but it can have a longer-term effect throughout most of the season. Next guy. And overall, by the end of the season, this is total leaf area for the whole season. Typically, we're seeing where the product was applied, we're seeing about here's like a 7%, about a 5% or so increase in total leaf area compared to the control. So we are getting, and that is, if we have enough replications, that is statistically significant. That's what the asterisk is for, and that's what the scientists need to see. These are not big increases, but they're statistically significant. That's important. Next one. Another symptom we're seeing that can help guide us in understanding why this is happening and how do we get this yield increase. We see a lot of delayed senescence. Now, 2011 was especially clear. We had a drought late in the season that dried plant out, the crop out more quickly. But my goodness, I don't know how many fields that season, from the roadside, you could clearly see where the product had been applied versus the control. These were so much greener. But even in a normal year, go ahead, Chad, I would say we've seen this in probably 90% of the cases when we go out to these on-farm strips and cut the plants. When we cut that 1 meter section of the treated rows, it sounds like you're chopping a tree down. You get a really loud crack. It's hard to cut it. We'll take the plants and fold them into quarters and put them in our bags, and it's hard. Those plants are still really rigid. Sap will start flowing out of these stumps after you cut them. These plants are still alive. Whereas the untreated control plants over here, when we cut them, there is no loud crack. We can fold them much more easily into the bags. You can feel the difference. No sap is flowing anymore. There's open air spaces in these stumps. I mean, these plants are dead. They're drying down. But I would say we see this every year. We'll go out and collect our samples at black layer, physiological maturity, and like I say, I would say 90% of the time we see this going on. In some farmers' fields, we go in and we will collect the samples. The farmer will tell us, here's treated over here, control is over here. We'll go in and we'll see this being the opposite of what the farmer told us, and we'll go talk to the farmer and he'll say, oh, I'm sorry, you're right, I had them reversed. So we can distinguish treated from untreated in the field. Next one. Roots. Everything that I've told you so far, bigger leaf area, delayed senescence, bigger plants, bit of a yield response, all of that can be explained by what people commonly associate with Humic products, and that is increased root growth. You know, in the industry, people just seem to pretty much assume that their products give bigger root growth. But there aren't a lot of data out there. So, this last season, we began putting quite a bit of emphasis on collecting root data. We have a graduate student, Nolan Curry, that his main objective of his thesis is to get root data. Can we show Humic products give something like this? Now, I think Chad and Mike, people who've been out digging plants, they know it does, but we just got to get numbers on that. Excuse me. In addition to possibly giving promoting the yield increase, there are many other benefits of having this bigger root system that people have already reported. The bigger root system will get more water, nutrients into the plant. In fact, it might give you the yield bump. But in addition to that, roots are made of very stable carbon. This carbon is tougher than the carbon in the above ground biomass. It's going to last longer in the soil. It's going to contribute to stable organic matter pools. That does all kinds of other good things for the soil. They also will, roots are constantly releasing exudates, very decomposable molecules that microbes love to chew on, amino acids, carbohydrates, and things like that. The scientific literature suggests that if you look at, on average, perhaps half of the carbon that you see in the above ground biomass of a crop, that same amount of carbon is being released into the soil as root exudates. That's a lot of carbon. And that carbon does in addition to the extra root biomass, these exudates, they're feeding microorganisms, so you're going to be getting better aggregation in the soil. Higher carbon content in the soil will retain soil nutrients, the calcium, potassium nutrients, things like that. Water retention. This is all good stuff. People commonly report that where they apply a Humic product, the field is easier to plow. They need less horsepower to plow that soil. And this is my best guess as to why that would be occurring, to get these bigger root systems. But we're primarily concerned right now, there's other measurements that could be taken there, and hopefully we'll get into that. But we're primarily concerned with, are these roots prompting the yield increase that we're seeing. Why don't you try the next slide? Okay, good. You worked with very good. These are slides that AgLogic contributed. Here's Nolan. He's the grad student, just started last year. His job is to measure the roots along with an army of undergraduate students. It's very labor-intensive work. Is that Sadanya there? Yeah. Okay, she's one of our undergrads, processing the samples here. Here he's measuring, that's the grain moisture there?
Herb moisture, yes.
Yeah, okay. What's the next slide you got? Okay, and this is another student, this is Victoria Scott, she's a PhD student. She also started last year. She is focusing more on the soil. She's interested in carbon turnover in the soil. That bigger root system is of high importance to her. What does that do to different fractions in the soil? We can extract young fractions of soil organic matter. I'm primarily a soil biochemist. We measure carbohydrates, amino acids, phenols, fatty acids. She'll be learning all that to see how that root system enhances the soil carbon pools and turnover of carbon in the soil. But again, she's just starting. She's working in a field experiment outside of Ames. It's a biofuel experiment. We've got because of space restrictions, we only have a control, regular residue removal, and then a biofuel removal rate. We remove as much as we can. The concern with biofuel production is that you're slowly starving the soil long term of its carbon inputs. And will that lead to long-term degradation of soil properties? If that's true, and we don't know that's true, but if it is true, one solution would be to apply a new product. You get a bigger root system, all that stable carbon, root exudates, and so forth. They might help counteract the loss of stover above ground to biofuel production. So her objective is to look at, does the yield igniter help stop any changes in soil carbon pools, microbial activity? She's measuring enzymes, a number of other parameters in what you call soil biology and biochemistry. Next slide. Okay, initial root findings. Nolan was doing Nolan did a lot of work right outside this building here, and we had another site down in southern Iowa. Now this was a goofy year with the weather. It was worst possible conditions for measuring root growth. Heavy rains early on, which just pounded the soil, followed by drought, which dried everything into a brick. It's exactly the worst case scenario for measuring roots. So all of our results, taken with a grain of salt. I mean, he'll be repeating this work in 2014. We'll see how consistent the results are. But what we found in 2013 was that there was enhanced root growth occurring with the product being applied. Massive increase. I'm guessing 20-30% increase in root length. This was occurring across all root classes. Essentially what he did was he would go out and dig up 3 root systems at different growth stages, wash the soil off, bring them back to a building. There we have a scanner. It looks like a photocopy machine. Once the roots are clean, you chop them up, lay them on top of this scanner, and then you just photocopy them essentially. We have software that can read the image and measure the total length of the roots in that image. And it separates them out by diameters of different, thicker roots versus the thinner roots. So then you get the output is total root length in different size classes. And what I saw was that by the end of the season, we were getting a 20 or 30% yield increase in root length across all the size classes. Now, this is not a final story. He's working every day now on getting those data in place. This is a kind of a gut feeling as to what I think we're going to see. But the big surprise was how late this occurred. I believe we had a sampling at B14, and even at B14, we weren't seeing much of a response. What we were seeing was that some of the bigger roots were beginning to broaden out, like putting on bigger shoulders onto the root system. But that was about all I saw at B14. And at R2, all of a sudden, all of these roots were there. Now, I'd like to stop and get what have you guys seen? Chad, Mike, or anybody else that's been digging up roots? Have you also seen that the root response is that late in the season? Or have you seen it occurring earlier in the season?
I think it depends on the year and the stress. And one product is applied, but in general, there's always not always, but a vast majority of the time there is a root increase.
But when does it occur?
Remember in 2009 when we were walking the fields out there at the ARS research farm, and I made the comment to look at the root systems, and we were actually at B1, B2. And remember the response? He actually took it in, and I'm not sure which professor he put it on his desk, but there was dramatically a difference in that particular year, and that was 2009, was an early response.
Okay. We only dug up 2 plants that time.
Yeah. But it's something that I've been seeing since 2002.
Okay, so you have seen an early response.
Yes, I have. But like I say, it depends on, I think, the year when that actually happens. Most guarantees it happens.
So when would it occur late and when would it occur early?
What is that your job?
Okay. Okay, well so this next one we don't have an answer for, then thank you, Mike. We don't know why that is. Last year, was it due to the weather or something else? But why that timing is important is because we want to compare when that root response occurs to all these other measurements we're taking. If we think the roots are driving the rest of the plant, because you've got a bigger root system, you can take up more water, more nutrients, so the leaves grow faster, longer ear develops, you get a yield increase, then that root response, as far as I can reason, has to occur first. You need the bigger root system in place first. Good question?
That test area, was that done in foliar application or in fertile, or do you remember?
Well, a lot of the work was done right here. Here we had I think we had a pre-emergence application in the northern block, and we had a V5 application in the southern block.
So the results were pretty parallel, it didn't matter on the application.
I
just wondered if the root response is later in a foliar application versus the girl.
Yeah, good question. I don't think Nolan's far enough along with his data yet to confirm that. I know by the end of the season, the responses were pretty similar by the end of the season. But what I don't know is early on if there was a difference in that effect. Well, I don't think we saw anything at B14. So, I mean, to answer your question, if there was a difference between the two, it wasn't much. I say Nolan's just beginning to look at the data. So I can't answer your question, but if there was a big difference, it was not a big difference. I guess I'll say that.
I think in my diggings and stuff, I will see more of a root mass increase in a reproductive stage versus the vegetative stage. So I have to wonder if it's not correlated, throwing energy towards building the plant, and then as the plant structure gets there, we go to reproductive stage, or we're filling the ear or making the ear, maybe there's more energy to be put forward towards the roots.
Oh, okay.
So,
I got to answer maybe a little bit of this. Remember the research of 2009, if you look at, it's kind of like a V, the starter, the pre-emerge, and V3, and the untreated. You can kind of see the difference in the root systems there. We don't have to have a slide of it here, but I have it in the book. So, and I think that corresponds with the foliar application. We didn't have V6 because we actually dug these roots the day after we sprayed our V6. So this was early in the season.
What growth stage was those dug at? It wasn't that late in the season.
No, it was actually,
June?
Yes. It was actually shortly after V6.
Wow.
That was the first year actually involved with this. I just happened to have this in the book and the question came up.
Okay. Well, then maybe our results in 2013 are due to unusual weather patterns then. That was the filter tank dug up at V6?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Well, our thinking here is constantly evolving. So maybe there isn't a clear answer here then, but we want to know whether the root response is occurring first, because that would then allow us to say the root growth might be causing everything else to happen. If the roots are responding later, the way Chad just said, then what that says is this root response is not driving everything else. It's just another side effect of the humic product. And the humic product, yield igniter, is having a much more fundamental effect on the whole plant. It's causing many things to be happening in different parts of the plant at different times. I mean, that's what the scientific community would like to know. That's a lot of the corn work. We're just beginning soybean work. We had this work was actually from a collaborator at Iowa State University, Andy Lenson. I believe this was his field. This was a little demonstration plot that we did outside of Ames. I know that was a bad drought year. You can see by comparing the control plant to the treated just has more biomass, has more roots. These are the nodules that fix the nitrogen. There's more of them. This is more what a normal soybean plant would look like in a normal year. So our impression in 2012 was that yield igniter helped maintain